Buckle in, sports fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show. The program will be starting in just a couple of minutes, so grab your popcorn and get ready to enjoy the show. While you're waiting, make sure you're following us on social media at WHBC Stream and staying tuned to WHBCStream.com. We're so glad to have you today on the program, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line on Twitter or call the show 352-639-0036. And thanks again for tuning in.
HBC. Well, it is a good evening to you and to you be. William Haynes here, you there, here on this Tuesday night at 9:35. You are listening to the William Haynes Show, as always, on WHBC Stream, and we are live from the WHBC studio in Tallahassee, Florida. A Rays loss, unfortunately, to discuss tonight. That will be the forefront of tonight's program. It was a 5-3 loss at the hands of the Washington Nationals as they sweep the two-game set, and is actually the Rays' first series loss since late July, early August. It was that sweep in Baltimore, and really the Rays have been so good since. Just the team kind of in a funk right now, I would say. We're kind of returning to that early season stage when a lot of people were really concerned about the Rays and, you know, their future this season. It's back to that kind of part where the offense is underperforming. The pitching was fine, but Ryan Yarbrough, a start tonight, he takes the loss in 2 2/3 innings. It was his first start off the injured list. Wasn't, you know, an arm or an elbow or anything like that. It was just it wasn't even a groin strain. It was just some groin irritation, and Yarbrough pulled himself from his last start prior to the IL stint, saying, you know, he just didn't want it to quote-unquote pop. I mean, I'm not sure that's quite the medical term, but that's what he used to describe it. So there wasn't even anything that happened. It was just a preventative measure. So I don't quite understand Yarbrough's struggles tonight. I know everyone just has a rough day at the office, and hopefully for Yarbrough that's what it was. His pitches just weren't breaking like they were, so I'm hoping there's no issues there, and he'll get it straightened out in his next start. As we look ahead on the schedule, it looks like Yarbrough's next start will be slated against the Washington Nationals once again next Tuesday, up against Anibal Sanchez once again. That's what it looks like as far as the ESPN's predicted pitchers. So that would be an interesting kind of rematch, and if that comes to fruition, so be it. The Rays are off tomorrow. They have a 4-game series against the Boston Red Sox coming up. No one really official for the Red Sox. It looks like it'll be Zach Godley on Thursday. But the announced pitchers for the Rays will be Fleming on Thursday, Snell on Friday, Glasnow on Saturday, and Morton on Sunday. So a Wednesday where the Rays don't play, which will be tomorrow. We're not going to be on the air just because there's probably not a whole lot to discuss. The Lightning and the Islanders will be playing Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. So I'll take that time, kind of watch that game, kind of get a view of things. Also, some stuff and on the forefront as we are kind of just a Tampa Bay sports radio show. The Bucks Week 1 game is on Sunday. It's a little bit weird because of no preseason. I don't know exactly what to make of this team, but with the extra wild card and all those things, it seems very likely that the Buccaneers will be a playoff team in the first time since 2007. It's been a very long time, one of the longest playoff droughts in the NFL, and really one of the longer ones in professional sports. As we had mentioned, the Mariners not making it since 2001. They are the longest, and if they play their cards right, they have a good chance at making it this year and booting the Yankees out, who, by the way, I just wanted to make a quick notion. The last time I checked, they were losing in the late stages to the Toronto Blue Jays. A loss tonight would send the Yankees to 500 at 21-21, so the New York Yankees season has really officially imploded, and if they get back to 500 in September, that will just be complete madness, New York sports radio and anywhere else. So, a lot of interesting stuff now that I kind of talk it out to track. Obviously, the most depressing of which are Rays lost. They dropped to 28-15. As it stands right now, looks like the Blue Jays will be making it up another game. So, if the Blue Jays win tonight, the Rays leading the American League East would be just 3 games. As by the way, the Rays losing back-to-back games for the first time since early August. So this is really the worst the team has looked in quite some time, but as I mentioned on yesterday's show, I'm not as much concerned about the wins and losses in September. I'm worried about them, how they set themselves up for games in October, and what I mean by that, no injuries, everyone stays healthy, but at the same time, no one falls in a slump and really, like Austin Meadows and Brandon Lau has. I mean, Austin Meadows leads off, goes 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, including recording the final out. His average is now down to 202. So stuff like that, we really can't afford to have happen. I think one of the most important things to see over the course of the next 3 weeks is that the starting pitching can return to form, and it looks like the Rays are going to be as close to having a 5-man rotation as they will really all season. And when it comes to playoff time, it most likely is going to be a 3-man rotation, potentially 4, or the fourth man in the rotation coming behind an opener, Castillo or what have you, as they did in the ALDS last year. So it looks like everything is kind of trending in the right direction in that regard. Morton had a good step forward last night. Yarbrough, I would say, probably a step back from where he's been. He has not recorded a win in a calendar year over that at this point. A note that he has no wins in his last 15 appearances, which is really just bizarre. He's been pitching pretty well. I mean, his ERA is up to 4.31, but he's been a good starter, quite efficient. I mean, he went almost 7 innings his last time out, and I think just about 80 pitches before he pulled himself out with a groin issue. So, I'm not pushing the panic button. He'll get a rematch next Tuesday, it looks like, against the Nationals and Anibal Sanchez once again, as it always works out that conveniently. Sanchez gets the win for the Nats tonight, improves to 2-4. What we're going to do right now at 9:40, we're going to take a 2020 sports break. We'll give you the Major League Baseball scores, and then what we'll do, we'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and talk inning by inning, post-mortem, if you will, tonight's Rays loss. I know we have some Rays fans listening to this quasi-post-game show, and if you're interested in calling into the show and maybe sharing some of your thoughts with me, I'm open and willing and would love nothing more than to hear from those of you that are listening to the program. The number to do that and to call into the show is 877-566-1020. We also have a Twitter. You can tweet us at WHBC Stream. If you want to tweet your thoughts on there, the Rays blew it, all that. We'll take that. We'll read it on the air, whatever you please. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. HBC. Now final from Buffalo, it is the Blue Jays 2-1 over the New York Yankees. The Blue Jays now creep within 3 games in the AL East and send the Yankees back to 500 at 21-21. They're now 7-14 on the road. And we have a couple of double headers today. The first of which in St. Louis, it was the Twins 7-3 over the Cardinals. In Game 2, it was the Cardinals coming back for the split, 6-4 over the Twins. Another doubleheader, we have it between the Athletics and Astros. Game 1, it was an Athletics 4-2 win over Houston, and it looks like Game 2 is still active in the second inning. It's a scoreless game. Some other action in the late stages. In the top of the 8th, it's the White Sox 4-2 over the Pirates. In the 7th, it's the Marlins 6-0 over the Braves. In the 8th, Tigers 8, Brewers nothing. Also in the 8th, it's the Orioles putting the beat down on the Mets at 11-1. In the 6th, in Game 2 of a doubleheader, it is the Red Sox 4-2 over the Phillies. The Phils took Game 1 of that doubleheader. In the 5th, it's the Rangers 4-1 over the Angels. Also in the 5th, Cubs 3, Reds nothing. And on the West Coast in the 1st, it is the Rockies 3-0 over the Padres. And the Dodgers and Diamondbacks scoreless. Top of the 1st, just underway.
Hey, sports fans! William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBCStream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCStream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 9:44, we are back on the William Haynes Show, dissecting tonight's 5-3 Rays loss at the hands of the Washington Nationals. Before I get really into it, I just wanted to remind you once more that if you're listening and you'd like to call into the show and maybe talk some Rays, whether tonight's reactions or what have you, the number to call 877-566-1020. At WHBC Stream is a Twitter where you can reach us as well. But without any further ado, tonight's 5-3 loss, it was for the Rays, 3 runs on 6 hits, no errors. For the Nationals, 5 runs on 7 hits and 1 error. It was Anibal Sanchez in 5 innings getting the win. He improves to 2-4. Ryan Yarbrough the loss. He drops to 0-3 in 2 2/3 innings pitched. It was Daniel Hudson with the save. He closes his 9th game of the year. If you recall, he closed Game 7 of the World Series against Houston last season. The way the Rays lined up, I'll give you the defensive alignment first. In the outfield from left to right, it's Randy Arozarena in left. In center, it's Kevin Kiermaier, and in right field, it is Manny Margot. And in the infield from left to right, at third base, Yoshi Tsutsugo, Adames at short, Brandon Lau at second base, and Ji-Man Choi at first. It was Michael Perez catching, and obviously for Ryan Yarbrough in the DH and leading off, it was Austin Meadows. As far as standouts, there was only 3 offers. It was Meadows going 0 for 5. Randy Arozarena goes 0 for 3, but does score a run. I believe that was on a hit by pitch. And then it was Michael Perez going 0 for 3. And then there was no multi-hit game. So Lau got a hit, Choi got a hit, Tsutsugo got a hit, Margot, Kiermaier, Adames each recorded a hit. And the way the lineup 1 through 9 went, it was Meadows leading off, then Lau and Arozarena, Choi cleaned up, followed by Tsutsugo and Margot, and a bottom 3, which I kind of liked, of Kiermaier, Adames, and Perez. Adames has been slumping, but he's one of the Rays' best hitters right now. I think having him 8th kind of provided some value just to give the bottom of the lineup a threat and give it some pop, nowhere where Anibal Sanchez and the Nationals pitchers can kind of catch their breath. I think that's kind of the nature of doing that. Kiermaier, a guy, who's a threat on the base path if he can get on. He gets on once tonight. And then you have Adames backing him up, and then Perez just as a catcher in the 9-hole, and then you flip it back over to, maybe Meadows and Lau. The way it worked, there was, I think, 3 times, I have it in my notes, that In an inning, it was Meadows, Lau, and Arozarena, and they went 1-2-3. Also of note, they went down 1-2-3 5 times in this game, and that's really a remarkable stat in itself. And the fact that it happened that many times, and they scored 3 runs, but it was all in the 6th. And also another note of that, they've only scored runs in 2 innings during this series. It was in the 8th inning of yesterday's game and in the 6th inning of tonight's game. So you think about that. On the backside, it's good, that the pitchers didn't have to cover as many innings, just 16 innings between the 2 games. But basically, in 18 innings over 2 days of offense, you only score runs in 2 of those 18. So basically, one inning of offense per 9, which really is not going to get you anywhere. I think if you really want to talk about why that is, I think you would look towards the top of the lineup. Randy Arozarena, a guy who's been adding some pop, with all the home runs. He's got 4 already. He didn't have much tonight. Obviously, he scored on a hit by pitch, but otherwise goes 0 for 3. And he doesn't give you anything. Obviously, Meadows leads off, goes 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. Lau, who's still slumping, goes 1 for 4. Choi, who cleaned up, and I don't understand why he's still doing that. I understand the lefty bat against a right-handed pitcher, but he just is not good in that spot. He goes 1 for 4, but does not get a run. And then, a couple of guys. Yoshi's still struggling. He can't. It doesn't look like. This is obviously isn't like the final verdict. He's, it's a short season. It's weird, different spring training, summer camp, all that. But Yoshi Tsutsugo this year cannot hit major league fastballs. Obviously coming over at being a superstar in the Japan League, the velocity isn't as high over there. A guy that can clobber off speed, no doubt, but the scouting report just gave him fastballs down the pipe, and it really stood out late in the game against Rainey, the reliever for the Nats. Tanner Rainey, and he was just pumping fastballs at 98, 99 and just blowing them right by Yoshi. You didn't even need to put it in a good spot because he just can't catch up to it. So that's certainly a concern, but a guy that they're probably going to have towards the bottom of the order that makes sense. He batted 5th tonight, a lefty against a right-handed starter. He played a pretty decent third base tonight, so if he's improving in that department, that will be easier for the Rays to keep him in the lineup. And I think the month of September, really, you couldn't ask for a better time with the way the Rays are positioned playoff-wise. Now, they are just 3.5 up on the Blue Jays. Thankfully, they don't have to see them again with all the damage that Toronto has done against the Rays. But it's not like regular years where there's a pennant race and there's value in winning the division. 1 through 8, all the playoff teams are going to just play a 3-game set. We don't even know if it'll be in home stadiums or not. So I think really the only value in winning a division is just to hang that banner, and maybe the Rays, want to do that, sure. But I think the month of September is really just about finding 2 things, getting guys like Tsutsugo everyday playing time and getting them used to major league pitching, and guys like that. Get a Arozarena used to playing every day in the majors. Get Meadows and Lau, hopefully their bats back to normal. Keep Adames playing every day because he needs that, that routine defensively, and, see if he can keep that back going. Things like that I think is very important. And also in the pitching, not just, to get the starting rotation stretched back out in Morton and maybe potentially Yarbrough, who knows what that's going to take, but also just the Rays are going to have some tough decisions to make. I think the roster gets cut down a couple to 25 men, and there's a lot of tough decisions to make with the bullpen and really the pitching staff as a whole. So I think the month of September is going to be huge into figuring that out. We know Kevin Cash won't shy away from kind of giving unknowns high leverage spots, and he's going to continue to do that late in games. To figure out what he's got in these certain guys. So I think that's really what the emphasis, and that's what we're going to see in the month of September. And tonight, it's a 5-3 loss. And what can you do about that? Also of note, they go 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position after going 0 for 9, I believe, last night, and leave a total of 7 men on base. So it really is the same old, same old. Kiermaier and Perez both go 0 for 2. So, Kiermaier, he was good in clutch situations early. He's kind of cooled off. He's batting .238. That is really the true Kiermaier experience. He definitely hasn't looked as good defensively this year as he has in seasons past. So I think ultimately that's not as good. I think maybe Brett Phillips will see some time in September just to try and maybe see if they want to get him in the mix. I don't really believe that he would be part of the playoff roster because you already have two center fielders in Kiermaier and Margot, although Margot can play the corners. Obviously, Meadows is going to be a corner, and probably Renfroe, and potentially to an extent Yoshi at times. And obviously, you're going to have to make a tough decision if you want Arozarena, because with both of those being righties, I would probably rather have Arozarena as a corner outfielder over than Renfroe, but that's a decision they're going to have to make at that time, and we'll of course be tracking that as things come down the stretch. I think they need to be on the active roster by September 15th, with some exceptions, in order to qualify for the postseason roster. So obviously, you'll see kind of the Rays, kind of their thought process and the decisions they make with the roster. Really, over the next week, they've got another week, basically 7 days, to figure out kind of how they want to do that. But I know Eric Neander and everything, all the guys in the front office are already going through that thought process, and they probably already have a pretty good idea on a whiteboard or something like that on how that 25 postseason roster will shake out. But without further ado, I know I've put a little delay to it. We're going to talk about tonight's 5-3 Rays loss, inning by inning. Yarbrough v. Anibal Sanchez. Top of the first, the Rays go down easy. Meadows, Brandon Lau, and Randy Arozarena go down 1-2-3. That wouldn't be the last time they do that. Bottom of the first, Yarbrough, 23 pitches, gives up a run. And his return off the IL, only missed one time through the rotation, and just spent the minimum 10 days on there. Also, as we mentioned last night, it was Trevor Richards getting sent back down, which makes sense because Richards was kind of your fifth starter, and now with Yarbrough and Fleming, and you combine that with Morton, Snell, and Glasnow, now you have your 5-man rotation there. So Richards kind of being the odd man out in that department, he gets set down again to make room for Ryan Yarbrough. Again, as I mentioned last night. So in the first inning, it was Robles and a 3-2 count getting hit by a pitch. There was a couple of those issued by Yarbrough, and I think 4 in total for Rays pitchers. Slegers had 2 of his own as well. So that was kind of part of the Yarbrough experience tonight. The pitches that he wanted to have movement just didn't, and hung over the plate. And then I guess pitches, that weren't supposed to move as much really ran into right-handed hitters, Yarbrough being the lefty thrower. So that was certainly an issue. I think ultimately the common theme between those two things is just lack of control, and that certainly wasn't not a great thing to see. Robles on a 3-2 count gets hit by a pitch, so he's a speedy guy on the base path. Then Eaton with a sacrifice bunt. It was a good play by Yoshi, a good charge to come in, and was going to take a perfect throw to get Eaton out at first, and they did. I think Eaton was really bunting to get on base, not just to move the runner over, but Yoshi ends up getting him, so that was good. In order, you got to take outs where you can get them. Trey Turner on a 3-2 count walk, so you see the theme there as well. Hitters taking Yarbrough into deep counts. Juan Soto, the runner steal in that at-bat to make it second and third with an RBI. Fielder's choice, cannot run it out. I think it was originally called safe, and it was a quick overturn for out number 2, but at that point it was 1-0. And then Kurt Suzuki grounds out to end things. So again, 23 pitches in the first for Yarbrough, gives up a run already. Top of the second, could an inning be any more Rays? I mentioned that on Twitter at WHBC stream. It really just, that's what you would expect for the Rays, the way they're playing right now. G-Man Choi grounds out, Yoshi flies out, so 2 outs, bases empty. Margot walks, which is the first base runner against Anibal Sanchez in that game. And then it was Kevin Kiermaier reaching on an error. It was a routine ground out. I believe it was, I want to say, the third baseman Keyboom, and his throw was off. Couldn't be corralled by the first baseman Asdrubal Cabrera, and the throw ended up getting away as well. So it was Margot end up able to get to third. So it's runners at the corners with 2 outs, and then Kevin Kiermaier as well steals second base to put 2 men in scoring position. Adames walks to load the bases. Unfortunately, it's for Michael Perez. He's had a clutch bat at times. Bases clearing double over the weekend against the Marlins. Just to give you an idea, 4 game-winning hits on the season. But with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the second inning, he's not as good in the early innings. It seems strikes out to leave 2 men in scoring position and 3 in total. So that really, I think, set the tone for the rest of the evening. Bottom of the second, the Nationals tack on another run. It was Asdrubal Cabrera striking out. Harrison flies out. So again, the 2-out Nats strike. It was Brock Holt doubling, Keyboom with an RBI double of his own to make it 2-0, and then Robles flies out to end things. So again, a run in each inning for the Nationals, and after 2, it makes it 2-0. Top of the 3rd inning, Anibal Sanchez makes quick work of the top of the order once more. It was Meadows on a 3-2 count striking out. Lau strikes out. Arozarena grounds out. Bottom of the 3rd, Yarbrough early exit. Sleggers keeps it close. Eaton flies out. Trey Turner doubles. It was an infield single for Juan Soto that moves Trey Turner over to third base. So it's runners at the corners with just 1 out. And Suzuki hit by a pitch again, a pitch from the lefty Yarbrough running into a right-handed hitter to load the bases. And at that point, it was Azurbil Cabrera with a sac fly to make it 3-0, and at that point the Rays made the decision I miss it again? I think I did. So Harrison RBI single to make it 4-0. So I was a little gun shy on that. Holt singles to reload the bases. So you see them. I'll give it to you again. So with 1 out, it was Turner doubling, Soto an infield single. So it's runners at the corners. Suzuki hit by a pitch, bases loaded. Cabrera with a sac fly to make it 3-0. Harrison RBI single to make it 4-0. Holt singles to load the bases, and then Ryan Yarbrough comes out in favor of Aaron Sleggers, and Sleggers gets Keyboom to fly out to leave the bases loaded, which was good to see from Sleggers. Inherits 3 base runners and allows none of them to come across to score. Ryan Yarbrough's line finishes at 2 2/3 innings pitched, 4 earned runs on 6 hits, walks a man, and strikes out 1. So good to see just 1 walk, but just the 1 strikeout. Wasn't really fooling anyone. Was catching too much of the plate on too many of his pitches. 70 pitches, 43 for strikes. We look at the first pitch strikes to batters faced. He faced 17 men and threw first pitch strike to 8 of those 17, so about half of the batters he was ahead 0-1, which I'm not sure exactly if that's good or bad. I would say that's decent, but he could do a little bit better. And then he exits the game, and good on Sleggers for keeping the Rays in the game, and it really looked like that was going to make the difference. But the Rays couldn't quite do enough offensively later in the contest. Top of the 4th, another out with runners in scoring position. It was Choi and Yoshi grounding out, and then Margot bunts, gets a bunt single, and then steals a base. So Dave Wills on the broadcast on the radio on WDAE is saying that's basically it's just a bunt double. You get on and steal a base. That's kind of a basketball term. Can you generate offense on your own? And that's doing just that. Taking what the defense gives you, gets the bunt, and takes advantage of that, and then steals a base on a guy like Anibal Sanchez, who's a little bit slow to the plate. So gets a man in scoring position. You're only down 4-0, and you got a runner in scoring position, but with 2 outs. And of course, it is Kevin Kiermaier that flew out to end things. So they strand him there. Bottom of the 4th, Sleggers pitches a scoreless frame. So that was good. It was Robles, Eaton, and Turner. So the top of the order. So that was nice to see. When Sleggers goes more than Yarbrough, that was kind of interesting to see. But that's just how it worked out. With an off day tomorrow, I think they were able to work it that way. Soto intentional walks in that 4th inning, and then Suzuki flies out. So again, Sleggers with a scoreless 4th. Top of the 5th, Adames, Perez, Meadows go down in order. 1, 2, 3. Bottom of that inning, Sleggers works a 1, 2, 3 inning of his own, gets Cabrera, Harrison, and Holt. That's not a whole lot going on in the middle stages of the contest. Top of the 6th, the Rays score 3, leaving the tying run 90 feet away, so that kind of hurt, but it was nice to see them finally break out offensively against a guy in Anibal Sanchez who's really been blown through the order. It seems like the Rays just have really been struggling with the soft tossers. It seems like they can get to the power pitchers, but not so much guys who can fool with more off speed. I think Anibal Sanchez's number 1 pitch that he throws more than any other is a changeup, so kind of a weird thing to see, something I've never really understood in baseball talks. I think just philosophically, is it a changeup if you throw it more than any other pitch? Because at that point, a fastball would be more of a quote unquote changeup. But I digress. It's really just the velocity and the movement of the pitch is why they call it a changeup. But that's his primary pitch, and he was fooling the Rays with it. I think the changeup is a pitch that the Rays have gotten fooled with a lot. So it was a good matchup for Sanchez. He gets only 5 innings, which was kind of surprising as we watched him early on. But in the 6th inning, it was Brandon Lau getting a bloop single, fell in just in front of the left fielder, Brock Holt. It was a Randy Arozarena getting hit by a pitch, took it like a man on the shoulder. A lot of hit by pitches by both sides tonight, so hopefully when these two teams meet in Tropicana Field in a little bit, including on this next homestand, there won't be a beanball battle, but I think a little more highly of the Nationals than I do the Yankees, so hopefully that will not that will not be the case. So there's 2 men on with nobody out, and then Choi with an RBI single. He finally comes through to make it 4-1. They get on the board, and Sanchez comes out at that point without recording it out, and Suero in, who gets an inning of work, but inherits a couple of base runners, and Yoshi with an RBI double. So that was good to see as well. Makes it 4-2. It was down, I think, the left field line. It was, yeah. And Dave Wills on the radio broadcast, as the ball was in the air, the call was something along the lines of, off the bat is Satsugo, stay fair, stay fair, stay fair. And it dropped fair of the left field line. So that was kind of a cool moment. I love just some cool calls like that. And it worked out. It would have not been as cool of a story if it had fell foul. But an RBI double for Yoshi there to make it 4-2. Margot an unproductive out. Kevin Kiermaier strikes out. What else is new? Willie Adames. And in that at-bat, Choi scored on a wild pitch during Adames' at-bat to make it 4-3, and then Adames ultimately draws the walk, so they keep the train moving for Michael Perez once again, who inherits some men in scoring position, including the tying run 90 feet away. He flies out, so going into the bottom of the 6th, it is 4-3 Nationals, and obviously by the final score you can tell there wasn't a lot of offense on either side the rest of the game. Bottom of the 6th, the Nats get a run back though on sluggers. Kieboom hit by pitch, Robles hit by pitch, so back-to-back. Sluggers was all over the place. It was the 4th one issued by Rays pitching tonight. Eaton with a sac bunt, so he does it once again. The runners advance 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. So how often do you see a guy record 2 sac bunts in a game? But the crafty veteran does just that. And then Trey Turner with an RBI ground out makes it 5-3. So really, the Nats, playing small ball. They get men on base with the hit by pitch, bunt him over, and then ground him in. And then Soto intentionally walked for the 2nd time tonight. They thankfully didn't have to face him last night because obviously the Rays were intimidated by him. He went 1 for 2, and he's batting .356 on the year. And then that brings up Suzuki, who, of course, grounds out. Top of the 7th, Doolittle comes on, gets Meadows and Lau to strike out, and then Randy Arozarena to fly out. And once again, it was the 1-2-3 hitters providing nothing offensively. And as I say, I think that's really where the struggles offensively come from, because that's supposed to be really the anchor of your lineup and the tone setter. And they do set the tone, but certainly in a negative way. It sets the tone for a stagnant offense. And they're gonna have to, I think they're gonna have to try and mix it up, because Meadows leading off just isn't gonna work. I would say I'm gonna bat him 5 or 6 if I'm the manager, but Kevin Cash certainly knows more about managing than I do, so I'll leave those decisions to him. Bottom of the 7th, Thompson works a scoreless frame, faces the 6, 7, 8 hitters, Cabrera, Harrison, who threw the bat, by the way, at the baseball and on the strikeout pitch. So that was kind of cool to see Thompson fooling some hitters, and then Holt strikes out. So a nice frame of work worked by Thompson. By the way, Slegger's line finishes 3 1/3, an earned run on no hits, 3 walks. I believe I would assume that the hit by pitches are included in that, but I'll have to take a look. 50 pitches, 30 for strikes. Faced 15 batters through a first pitch strike to 10, so that was kind of good to see. And of course, Slegger's a guy who can work kind of some bulk innings. Not too much of that. Obviously, that's not going to be a playoff role for him, but there's 3 weeks left of the regular season, so we may see him kind of in that role. They call him the Sledgehammer, which I think is kind of a nice nickname for Slegger. So 3 1/3 inning worked. Made way for Thompson, who worked a scoreless 7th. Top of the 8th we go. The Rays go 1, 2, 3 for the 5th time. Rainey comes on, who throws high upper 90s fastball. Choi flies out in a good at bat though, but just couldn't get on base. Yoshi strikes out on a high fastball, and then Margot strikes out. So really no threat provided there after the good at bat by Choi. Bottom of the 8th, Curtis prevents or keeps it a 2-run game. Excuse me. Curtis gets on, gets Keyboom and Robles out. Eaton reaches on what really should have been, in my opinion, an error against a Rosarena. He ends up getting to second, so it's a double for Eaton. It was a play where it should have been a routine fly out, and a Rosarena takes a step in or two when the ball's coming off the bat, and then all of a sudden he had to turn around and run really hard backwards and make a jumping catch over his shoulder, and he just couldn't get far enough, and it goes off the tip of his glove. So if he had played it right, and I know he's a young kid, and the thing is, we've been applauding his defensive ability and his fielding, so really makes a mistake there. Wasn't charged an error against him, but if I was the official score, I would have called it that. But that's really been a common theme this year, where that's just the new direction of baseball. Is it's easier just to give guys hits than to charge errors. But so then it was Eden getting on second. I mean, it's a 1-run game, so all of a sudden this could cost you. But Trey Turner strikes out to end things. So good on John Curtis, who should have just had a quick 1-2-3 inning to hit charge to him, and but he. I think that was a really good look for John Curtis, and I think that'll help his stock as some of these pitchers are going to end up being the odd man out as far as the playoff roster is concerned. So, again, Curtis helping his stock there, overcoming something that not necessarily his fault. His ERA is now 1.72, so that's certainly good for a reliever. He was a closer in college and then in the minor leagues, and has proved to be a pretty good late-inning reliever for the Rays from the right-handed side. And then in the top of the 9th, the Rays can't square up Daniel Hudson. He comes on for the save, obviously. He got the 9th of the year. Kevin Kiermaier flies out. Adames hits a single, which is good. Gets the tying run to the plate in Nate Lowe, who pinch hits for Michael Perez, the catcher, and he flies out. So not great to see from there, but obviously it's not easy to sit on the bench for 8 innings, then come off and obviously Hudson not one of the best relievers in baseball, but to face the team's closer and flies out, and then Meadows strikes out to end the game, and again he goes 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. So again, they take the loss 5-3 to the Nationals. I'm not really sure how much it means in the grand scheme of things. Of course, with the Blue Jays winning tonight, they creep up further. The Rays now just have a 3.5 game lead on the Blue Jays, who have now won 3 straight. And the Blue Jays and the Yankees have yet to face each other until now, and the Blue Jays have taken the first 2 games, I believe, of this series. So that may be a sign of things to come. The Yankees now at 21-21. They're 6.5 games back of first. They've lost 5 in a row. Who knows? At this point, it's the Baltimore Orioles are just a game back. So we're talking a point in a world where the Yankees may not make the postseason. And, of course, we all have our fingers crossed that that's going to be the case. But, it may not end up that way. They may end up sneaking in. But, again, I mean, this stuff, games like these may cost the Rays the pennant. Or, I'm sorry, not the pennant, but the American League East a title. But how much does that really mean with the way the playoffs is? I don't think there's a lot of value in winning a division, but something the Rays haven't done since 2010, so it would mean a lot from that standpoint, and really for in the record books to just highlight the accomplishment of the front office and the players and the management and all that, Kevin Cash and that coaching staff. But a playoff berth is a playoff berth this year, and more teams will make it than not. And the Rays really, I think ESPN still has them at 100% to make the playoffs, and there's really no way that they don't make it, although they haven't officially clinched. I think the magic number for clinching is probably about 12. So, and again, the magic number, that's not the Rays wins. That's Rays wins combined with, I believe, Orioles losses, as they're, I think, the 9th place team out of the 8 playoff seed. So, I mean, it's not going to be hard. I think, a couple weeks we'll be talking about clinching night and things like that. But it's really going to be what this team does in October that defines this season. Again, with the 60 games, it's not going to be hard to make the playoffs. So, that's all I really have to say about it. The offense is still stagnant. Bad look for Yarbrough, but hopefully he can just get it turned around. He's going to have to do it against the Nationals and Anibal Sanchez once again. So that's in the bullpen look good, and they'll be able to set things up after an off day and do what they will against the Red Sox. So hopefully we'll be talking about some more games in the win column. At 10:11, we are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to discuss maybe how the Rays line up over the next few days, and maybe talk some NFL, some NBA, NHL. We'll do it all. You want to call us about anything, Rays, sports, whatever you want, 877-566-1020. We're going to give you some score updates and take a quick break. HBC Playoff basketball. It's the Miami Heat clinching their series over the Bucks, 103-94. They win that series in 5. A Milwaukee team that was the 1 seed in the East and expected to make it all the way to the finals. They're bounced out in the semifinals, and in the second quarter, it is the Rockets up 46-43 over the Lakers. That series in Game 3 is tied 1 game apiece. In hockey. Just one game going tonight, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. The Stars up in that series 1-0, but they are down to the Golden Knights 3-0 with about under 2 minutes left to go in the second period. And that's about it, as just some baseball games in the late stages. We'll get that when we come back.
Hey, sports fans! William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Stream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCstream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 10:14, we are back on the William Haynes Show. Final 20 minutes of the program, and so that means no more sports breaks, commercial breaks, any of that. A number to call as we wrap up the show is 877-566-1020 at WHBC Stream is the Twitter. Wasn't able to get all the scores in during the update, so the baseball scores that have changed a little bit since the last time we spoke of them. In the ninth, it's the White Sox and Pirates tied at 4. In the ninth, the Marlins up 6-0 over the Braves. And also in the ninth, Tigers 8, Brewers 3. In the seventh of Game 2 of the doubleheader, it's the Red Sox up 5-2 over the Phillies. In the seventh, Rangers 6, Angels 1. Also in the seventh, Cubs up 3-0 over the Reds. And on the West Coast, some games in the second, the Padres up 5-3 over the Rockies. In the third, Athletics 1, Astros nothing in Game 2 of a doubleheader. And in the second, it is the Dodgers 1, Diamondbacks nothing. Final game of the night. In the second, it's the Mariners and Giants tied at 1. We look ahead. It's an off day for the Rays tomorrow, which will be good as far as lining up the bullpen. And it looks like it's not official, I believe, but ESPN has it as Josh Fleming v. Zach Godley. I know it'll be Fleming for the Rays. Who knows if it'll be Zach Godley or not for the Red Sox. The game getting underway in Tropicana Field at 6:40. Again, that's on Thursday. So, programming update. We're going to be off on Wednesday as there's no game to talk about. We're going to be watching Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Lightning and the Islanders. Just something I want to mention about that game. The Lightning knew they had to win that game because the Islanders had gone to 7 against the Flyers, so that was a tough series for them, and the Lightning made pretty quick work of the Bruins winning that series in 5. And both teams had to make their way over from Toronto to Edmonton, which is across the country of Canada. So, some travel involved for the Islanders as well. The Lightning were already pretty accustomed to it, and they knew they had to get off to a good start. The Lightning did, and they win Game 1 by a score of 8-2. They were really all over the Islanders. I don't know if that's going to be the game plan for the series moving forward, but they just did not give the Islanders any room to breathe. I think the Islanders scored both of their goals on the power play, and that's really been the case for the Lightning over the course of the playoffs. They're better as far as goal differential in 5-on-5 about more than anyone, but the Lightning do tend to make mistakes, whether it's the checking or tripping with the stick. That kind of stuff, and just kind of sloppy play, and the penalty kill is not as good, although they do have some pretty nice defensive pieces. Hedman has played as good as ever, but guys like Shattenkirk and guys like that, I can name them all, but you're pretty familiar with the roster of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Game 2, that'll be crucial. I mean, I think the stat was teams historically in the NHL, teams that have won the first game of the conference final win the series 65% of the time, which is not too extreme of a split, but it pretty much improves your chances by 15%. And now the Islanders are going to have to win 4 out of 6 against the Lightning if they want to win the series, and really with the way the Lightning have been playing, that doesn't really seem possible. The Islanders, a good story. They had to make their way through the qualifying round, and they've looked good in the playoffs. But it looks like maybe their luck is running out a little bit. Barry Trotz and kind of that defensive style can only take you so far, and I just don't think they have the firepower to keep up with what the Lightning brings to the ice. And they're dealing with kind of some goalie issues. They played both of their goalies in last night, and it was last night's game. So I don't know who's going to be the starting goalie for them in Game 2, but it really reminds you, Lightning fans, of how valuable it is to have a guy like Andrei Vasilevsky. We kind of take him for granted sometimes. He doesn't always perform up to maybe our expectations, but to have a guy that is your goalie night in, night out, especially in the postseason, is really good to see, and he's been very good, I would say, sound so far in the playoffs, and hopefully the Lightning will be on their way, hopefully, to a Stanley Cup final, and then from then on, who knows, really the sky's the limit. But again, for tomorrow, as I refresh Mark Tompkins' Twitter page, it doesn't really look like we know who the starter is for the Red Sox. For all intents and purposes, I'll say that it's Zach Godley, because that's what ESPN says again. Thursday at 6:40 from the Chop, Josh Fleming v. Zach Godley. Godley is 0-4 with an 8-16 ERA, so you could say an ungodly stat for him, if you will. And then for Josh Fleming, a 3-0 record with a .352 earned run average. Now, Zach Godley has faced the Rays before this year. That came on August the 12th. He received a loss in a decision. It went just 3 innings pitched, gave up 8 earned runs on 10 hits, 3 homers, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts through 74 pitches. So, I mean, the Rays really got to him, and how. I remember that was when really the Rays offense got up and going after that rough start. They go 0-5 on the road trip and things like that, and they had a nice homestand in a 2-game set against the Red Sox and the 4-game set against the Yankees, and then they go back on the road. I think they started in Boston, and that was the 4-game sweep there. That was part of the beating up on Zach Godley. So, and also in his Godley's last start on the 4th of September, once again just goes 3 innings pitched, 4 earned runs on 5 hits, 2 home runs again. I mean, he's allowed a lot of home runs so far, in total 9. So a guy that's susceptible to the long ball. He's 0-4, an ERA of 8.16. So has not gotten through 5 innings in any of his starts. Pretty much just 4 or 3 innings in every single start. So if the Rays can't get back on track offensively, then when can they? The Red Sox, one of the worst teams in the league. They're in contention for the number 1 overall pick, and a 4-game set against them should be pretty good. I mean, obviously the players aren't trying to lose, but you're playing a team that I think really wants to lose. and you really should be able to beat them with the roster that the Rays have. And for Josh Fleming, again, the stats on him, he is 3-0 with a 352 earned run average. He's won all 3 of his first 3 starts, which has been great to see. Has gone pretty much the same distance in all of them. I mean, you think correlation, he goes 5, 5 1/3, and then 5, and then the pitch count 72, 74, 73. So, and all 3 of those are wins. So they really have all been kind of the same pattern. His last time out, it was a little bit more rough, giving up the most hits as he has in a start, including 2 home runs. It was 4 earned runs on 7 hits, again, 2 of them homers. No walks, though. 2 strikeouts. In 3 starts, just 2 walks. And those both came in his first start. So in his last 2 times out, basically 10 1/3 combined with no walk. So obviously that was the scouting report on him. Had really impeccable control of his fastball, and then a changeup and a slider that were kind of average pitches. And there was some concern that he was not going to be able to get righties out, the lefty Fleming. I think righties hit about 300 against him in the minor leagues, but I think he's really kind of put that to bed. Has really been fooling guys with his stuff. The fastball, again, hard to beat when you know where to put it. But it looks like there's a kind of a leash. I thought they said he was good to go 90 to 100 pitches, and I don't know if they want to try and stretch him out to that with the way he's been pacing. I mean, you're talking 6 and potentially into a 7th inning, but it looks like they like him getting through just 5, and I think really just facing the lineup 3 times through, and then maybe calling it a day. As that's kind of what their metrics show, but he's just kind of been blowing through the lineup quickly and efficiently. So, I mean, I would say probably, just more of the same, 5 or 6 innings, and about probably, 75 to 80 pitches would be his range. And with a day off tomorrow as the game's on Thursday, I think they're going to have some mobility with the bullpen again. Nick Anderson will be good to go. I think maybe concerned that, they haven't pitched in a while, just because the situation hasn't called for it, but Nick Anderson will be there. Diego Castillo will be available. There's some talks that Oliver Drake may be ready to go. So there's going to be a 6-game homestand coming up, 4 against the Red Sox and 2 against the Nationals. So I think over the homestand would be where they want to target bringing Oliver Drake back, again, a righty that can get righties and lefties out. I mean, they're going to have Ryan Thompson, John Curtis, everyone out of the pen. So that'll be good. And, if it's Zach Ollie, I mean, the Red Sox have probably the worst pitching staff in the majors, starters and relievers combined. So, I mean, they should be able to get to him. I think if there's a good time to really get back on track offensively, it's now. I mean, you're going to be facing some pitchers that's like batting practice pregame. So you would hope that, they're going to be able to try and get that on track. And again, for the 4-game set, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So a bit of a wraparound series. It'll be Fleming, Snell, Glasnow, and Morton, and no one officially announced for the Red Sox. So it's good to get those 4 starters. And, as far as programming goes, again, we're going to be off tomorrow. We will be on the air on Thursday after that game against the Red Sox. As far as Friday, I don't believe I'm going to be on the air. I might pre-record something, maybe, to the effect of maybe some college football or some NFL stuff. And kind of put that out there just to get something on the air. Just an inside look, if you will. A student at Florida State, I am, and on Saturday I'll be going to the Florida State football game. So, of course, all the festivities that go along with that. So I'll be enjoying some of that. And, of course, that'll be good to finally see some college football. And, of course, that's all great. As far as, Rays coverage tonight, that just about covers it. That's about all I've got. About 7 minutes or so left on the program as I'll get right out until that hour. We'll talk some NFL and some NBA and some NHL. The number to call, I'll give it to you once more, is 877-566-1020. If you still want to call about the Rays, that's all good and fine. We'll take the call and talk Rays. I'm all good doing that, but I didn't have really any more thoughts to say. Just touching again on the NBA, looks towards halftime. The Rockets 58-56 over the Lakers. That's going to be a good series, tied 1 game apiece. I know the Rockets were a little bit frustrated after the Game 2 loss, but that is what it is. I know the Lakers are probably the favorite to get to the NBA Finals, and again, the Heat closing out a series in 5 games over the best team in the East in the Bucks. Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic leading the way. That free agent signing Jimmy Butler. I mean, I know, Pat Riley and everyone for the Miami Heat, they've been talking about, getting the big whale, as far as the free agent signing that was talks, maybe Gordon Hayward in years past. They've kind of had to settle for, small signings like Kelly Olynyk and things like that. But they finally get the big fish, the big whale, if you will, and Jimmy Butler, and I think it's really paid out. They make the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2014, so the first time in the post-LeBron James era for Miami, so that's good to see for them. As far as games tomorrow in the NBA, Game 6 of the East semifinals is the Raptors and Celtics. Boston leads that series 3-2, and I think is really in the driver's seat. Celtics started out 2 games up, 2-0, and then Toronto took the next 2, and then of course it was the Boston taking Game 5, and they need one more win out of the next 2 to take the series, and it looks like they probably will end up doing that. And then also tomorrow, it will be the Clippers and Nuggets in Game 4 of the Western Semis. The Clippers lead that series 2-1, and as good as the Nuggets are as a regular season team and all that, I think they're just outmatched by, the best wing combo probably in the NBA in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, guys that, can score with the ball, can create offense without the ball. They're also good defenders. So, again, those 2 wing pieces, it's hard to match up against them on either side of the floor. And I would say that they're probably poised for a date with the other team in Los Angeles, the Lakers, in the Western Conference Final, which I'm glad and I hope that it'll work out that way, because I think with the NBA going into the bubble, that was kind of the hope of something we would see, and that was part of why the NBA wanted to restart the season. LeBron James in his mid-30s, he's not going to be... it's hard to say. I mean, at 35, it's hard to say that he's still in his prime, but, I mean, he's still pretty unbeatable. I mean, he can do it all. He's still kind of that superhuman type, and getting that, once again, and, he wasn't in the playoffs for the first time in forever last year, and, to get him back this year, I think was important to the league, and I think a matchup against the Clippers, although, it would have been cool with 7, games in Staples Center if it went that far. It would have been a really, really cool thing to see, but for all we know, we may end up getting that next year, and hopefully that is the case. But for now, it looks like it may be Clippers and Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. That game, Clippers and Nuggets, the Clippers are a 7.5 game favorite. So it looks like they'll probably be in the driver's seat 3-1 if it works out that way. The Celtics a 3-point favorite over the Raptors. As far as hockey goes, again tomorrow, I just wanted to once again. It looks like late in the third period, it's the Golden Knights up 3-0 over the Stars. The Dallas is empty net, but unless they score 3 goals in 3 minutes, it will be that the Golden Knights tying that series 1 game apiece. So that makes sense that probably both conference finals will go pretty deep. I would say maybe Vegas and Dallas could go 7. I'll have to see with Game 2, but I don't see this series going any deeper than probably 6 games at the most. It looks like the money line, the Lightning are 165 favorite, so you bet $100 and you win 165 if the Lightning do win. So odds-on favorites to win Game 2, 8 o'clock tomorrow. The Lightning looking so good, 8-2 over the Islanders. I think really statement win. The momentum, and especially in hockey, not as much something that carries over from game to game, but it can within a game. But so I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders come out, not a team that comes out hot, but it's got, it's not the sexy way of, how Lightning and the Brayton Point on the first line, and they score within the first 2 minutes of the game. That's coming out hot. I think kind of for the Islanders, it's not to come out hot, but it's to come out technically sound and play their game and kind of set it up and put the game in front of them and let it come to them. But with a team like the Lightning, that's not always the best ideas. If you let the Lightning come to you, they will, and they did exactly that in Game 1. So an interesting game, and I think Game 2 will kind of set up the rest of the series because, again, if the Lightning go up 2-0, it will be the Islanders having to win 4 games in 5 against the Lightning, and that's not possible. So the Lightning can really set themselves up with a ticket. That would be the two tails of if the Lightning make the Stanley Cup Finals. It's either going to be a Dallas Stars team and Ben Bishop, which that story writes itself. Vasilevsky v. Ben Bishop, the student v. the master, all of those things. I was there in Amalie Arena when those things were going on, and Ben Bishop goes down and things like that in the playoffs, and then they eventually transitioned to the young kid, the Big Cat Vasilevsky. So, I was a big Ben Bishop guy. I would, as much as I would like it, that the story, it all writes itself. I wouldn't like to send Ben Bishop home, but that would be a very cool matchup, and I think a team that the Lightning would probably match up against well, and then a team in the Vegas Golden Knights that, in all honesty, the Lightning really should have been playing in the Stanley Cup Finals in 2018 in that first year for Vegas when they make that storybook run in their first season as a franchise to the Cup Final and lose, and I'm not sure how many games to the Washington Capitals, but if you recall, it was the Tampa Bay Lightning up 3-2 over the Washington Capitals in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I don't think they scored a goal in the last 2 games. They lose Game 6 in Washington, and then a horrific Game 7 in Amalie Arena. I think it was 1 or 2-0, in a game that was really just hard to watch. And again, Ovechkin and all those guys, Tom Wilson, they go to the Cup Final, and of course they win the whole dang thing. So that's the two tales of maybe who the Lightning will face in the Cup Final: a Dallas team in a date with Ben Bishop, or a team in Vegas who they really should have been playing in a Cup Final a couple of years ago. And obviously, we would love nothing more than for the Tampa Bay Lightning to bring home the Cup for a first time in all too long. I think it was 2004, the only Stanley Cup in the Lightning franchise history. They were last in the Cup Final in 2015 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago, what am I doing with that? The Chicago Blackhawks, when I believe they lost in, I think, 5 or 6 games. It was a tough series to watch. Either way, I was going to talk some NFL football, but we're going to put a wrap on that. We'll save it for later this week, as I did. What do you know? As always, stretch the program out a full hour. I want to thank everyone who checked out the program. No callers tonight, but that's all right. I know not necessarily the best time that you want to talk about the Rays in a frustrating time. They lose a series for the first time since late July, early August, and lose back-to-back games for the first time again since early August. So, I get the frustration with that. They're going to be a playoff team either way. It's just kind of, they got to get their roster and everything figured out, get their guys back well. The Rays will be off tomorrow, and so will I. We'll be watching the Lightning, as I'm sure you will be. But we'll be back on Thursday night after the Rays and Red Sox. Josh Fleming on the mound, and as always, we will talk to you then.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66 FM.
HBC